What's your name? Who's giving the closing?
John.
So I thought you were giving the closing.
No, I just wanted to make sure. What
Alexis, you're closing.
No, here, you got it. Open it.
Yeah. Are the parties ready to proceed?
The state attorney.
Defense? All right, let's get started.
Permission to interact with the demonstrator during closing?
You have full use of the law. You do that.
May I proceed?
You may.
Your Honor, opposing counsel, members of the jury, may it please the court. Targeted, tangible, toxic. Those are the facts of the case as you heard them today. You heard about the defendant's targeting of Rob Armstrong, how they ignored tangible warning signs, and how that led them to putting a toxic chemical in Rob Armstrong's diving mask. And that's why we charged them with murder in the first degree. Now in Midlands, murder is defined as when you knowingly, purposely, or recklessly, with an extreme indifference to someone's life, cause their death. And when we brought that charge to court today, we had to prove it to you beyond a reasonable doubt. That was our burden, and it's ours alone. But we met our burden today. We proved to you that the defendant killed Rob Armstrong. And we did it by showing you targeted, tangible, and toxic. So let's start by talking about targeted. You heard how the defendant was betrayed on season 2 of The Saboteurs. They were humiliated in front of a large national audience. And that humiliation didn't just stop after season 2. It went all the way to season 10, years later. The financial implications of them losing $500,000 started in season 2 and went on for years. This betrayal followed them from when it happened to now, and it will for the rest of their life. And that's why they targeted Rob Armstrong. And you saw how when they decided to go on The Saboteurs, how they had already put plans in place to execute their target. How on January 7th, when they received text from Rob Armstrong saying that this was all going to happen again, they were ready. They weren't going to let that happen. Which is why the next morning, they downloaded a material safety data sheet for the same chemical used in poisoning Rob Armstrong. And only 90 minutes later, they basically told Riley Kay that they were going to use it. They said, I have plans and backup plans. How much room am I going to have to go off script? How much room am I going to have to sabotage? And you heard how they did execute their target when they got on the set. You heard how on the same day that Rob Armstrong died, they put oxalic acid in his mask, an inch from his nose, an inch from his face. And on that day, the defendant finally executed their target because Rob Armstrong was killed. Now, there's something else that we had to prove to you today. Not just that the defendant caused Rob Armstrong's death, but also that they intended to. And we met that by showing you tangible. We showed you every tangible warning sign that the defendant saw. How right before they went on the show, they downloaded a material safety data sheet for the same poison that was used in this murder. How they used a bottle that had this label on it. that, as you heard Dr. Atlas Hartley read, has every warning you could want. There are so many warnings on this bottle. This was found in the defendant's room. They certainly saw it. I mean, how many tangible warnings can the defendant ignore? They intended to kill Rob Armstrong, and we know that because of the tangible warning signs they ignored. And then we proved to you toxic. We called Dr. Atlas Hartley to the stand, and Dr. Atlas Hartley told you that oxalic acid was the definitive cause of death in this case. That they had never seen so much oxalic acid throughout their entire career. The toxicological reports said that this was 3.5 times higher than the baseline. Their definitive conclusion was that oxalic acid was the cause of death. We certainly met our burden today. And while the defense doesn't have a burden, they decided to bring evidence and call witnesses. And we're allowed to analyze the credibility of that. So let's start by talking about their first witness, Indigo Quaid. Now, Indigo Quaid tried to tell you about the saboteurs, but we can't trust a word they said. First, they lied to get on the saboteurs, and they did that multiple times. They lied to the defendant and Rob Armstrong to get onto the show. They're willing to lie for what benefits them. And what's more beneficial than supporting their book deal? By having the most interesting trial testimony of all time. By helping to get the defendant off for a crime they committed. Next, they called Dr. Micah Lynn, who tried to tell you that the defendant couldn't have the intent to do this. But we can't trust Lynn's conclusions. And that's because they had the wrong data. You heard that the defendant told them the only sabotage they did was putting weights in Rob Armstrong's backpack. And you heard that it's an undisputed fact that the defendant sabotaged Rob Armstrong with oxalic acid. The defendant didn't tell their psychologist the truth. And because of that, Dr. Lynn didn't have the right data. And finally, you heard from Charlie Martin. But if you can't trust Charlie Martin to tell the truth in a psychological evaluation they know is going to court, how are they going to do it today? Now, if you still believe that the defendant didn't have the intent to murder Rob Armstrong, I want to leave you with a quote they said only 2 months after Rob Armstrong died. And that's, "I wanted to do so much more than hurt him. I wanted him to pay for the years of pain he put me and my mom through." Deliver the only verdict that justice demands and find the defendant guilty. Thank you. Permission to deconstruct unless opposing counsel would like me to leave it up.
No, please do construct.
Anything from the defense?
Yes, Your Honor. Your Honor, opposing counsel, members of the jury, may it please the court. How much does good TV cost? On April 6th, it cost Rob Armstrong his life. Now, the defense does not dispute that this is a tragedy, and Rob Armstrong deserves justice. But this will not be found in the prosecution of Miss Charlie Martin. You see, today the prosecution has painted out Miss Charlie Martin to be a murderer. So you have premeditated this crime. However, what the prosecution will not show you is what was behind the scenes. They won't show you how production again and again broke the rules. They won't show you how production pushed their competitors to go bigger, to do better stunts. They won't show you the effects that this production, concerned only with ratings, had on their contestants. Now, today, Mrs. Charlie Martin is being charged with first-degree murder. That means that she must have knowingly, purposefully, or recklessly acted in a way that caused Rob Armstrong's death. Now, I would like to clarify that the prosecution bears the burden of proof. Never does that burden of proof shift onto the defense. Today, the defense has showed you again and again that you should have reasonable doubt. Today, the defense called Indigo Quaid. Indigo Quaid testified to the need for ratings on the show. She testified to the statements that Charlie had made that were concerning, and that she had gone to production, and production had passed it off. They never administered another psych evaluation. Second, the defense called Micah Lynn. Micah Lynn, a psychologist, testified to the fact that Charlie Martin should have never been a saboteur on the show. Micah Lynn testified She testified to Charlie Martin's intent. She testified that Riley Kay, again and again, made them feel like they had to do just a little bit more, go a little bit bigger. And when something happened, it was just brushed off on Charlie Martin. Lastly, the defense called Charlie Martin. She testified to the treatment from production. Charlie Martin testified that she did not know the oxalic acid would harm Rob Armstrong when she put it into his mask. Charlie Martin testified that she only wanted him to smell the oxalic acid and not go through with the task. That she felt that she had to put that oxalic acid in because that's what makes good TV. That's what will bring the ratings up. Now, today, you heard from the prosecution's witnesses. Today, you heard from Riley Kay. Riley Kay received this psychological evaluation. This evaluation that told her that she needed to monitor Charlie Martin, specifically in regard to Rob Armstrong. And yet he decided to cast Charlie Martin not only on the show, but as a saboteur. We also heard how Riley Kay again and again broke the rules. They offered money to keep Charlie Martin and Rob Armstrong on the show. We heard from Atlas Hartley, a medical examiner, who testified that the oxalic acid label